Morning, everyone. This is Trend Follower this side, and it's that time of the week. In this video, we'll look at important supply and demand zones, important ICT concepts, which will help us plan our trades for this week. This week is full of news, so there are a lot of comments. I hope it would be fun for you because this one is definitely fun for me. Before we go into the weekly trade ideas, I would like to show some of the ideas we showed in uh, our last video. One was in NZDCAD. We said there's a gap area which can be tested, and after that, there can be a huge rejection. Look at what happened in NZDCAD. It came here and exactly where we pointed out, tested it, and perfect fall. That was a great trade. I enjoyed that one for sure. The second one was on DXY. We said this weekly line matters, this 12-hour supply zone matters. On DXY, if you see the weekly line, let me convert this to weekly. Yeah. So the weekly line was right here, right? Right here, it tested it and just went down, right? So right here. So if you see this one in particular, where is this? So it tested this area, couldn't test the 12 hour, but tested this line and just went down. So our bearish bias on DXY definitely worked. This is the futures chart. On Forex chart, you don't see it testing the weekly line as such, but that's what happens. You have to look at both charts because futures is more correct than Forex. So perfect test of the area on futures chart, and it just rejected. Most importantly, our bias on DXY was perfect, right? The next thing we mentioned was on GBP CHF. You said maybe it will take these equal highs, and then I think there can be a move down. And if you see GBP CHF, uh, we exactly saw that. It tested those equal highs and then went down. I think it can further go down. We'll see this week. And there are some reasons I say that. But we'll plan accordingly, right? We'll see what happens this week. And I will point out why I think that there are reasons for GBP and Euro to pull back. The next thing we mentioned was on GBP Futures, that it will test the area and go up. Unfortunately, it didn't test the exact location. I thought that ideally it should test somewhere below here. If you see this particular one, right? It just came so close. So I missed that one. But I should have mentioned this is the area too on daily demand. But I missed that one. I was concentrating on better risk to reward, which is part of my process, so it's fine. But it was something that I could have mentioned to you guys so that if anyone saw the pattern, they could have traded that. So, but again, the bias was correct. I was bullish on these names. I was bearish on DXY. That worked perfectly. Learned something good for another day, right? So let's focus on what is the plan this week. What do we think about this week, right? So before going into week, if you have seen my previous videos, I like to know where the volatility can be, where the trades can reach their potential, right? And the way I do that is by looking at the news. So first and foremost, let's look at the news this week. And I'm telling you, it's one packed news week, right? So even my screenshot couldn't take the whole thing. So I will just focus. I don't want to go through every single thing. You can read it later yourself. Go to Forex Factory and all. But most important is odd cash rate news, Monday. Monday is holiday for US markets, so there may be markets closing soon and all. But later in the day, 10:30 p.m. EST time zone, odd cash rate. That's damn important, guys. That's damn important. So this one is very important, and I will focus a lot on this one. Then CAD is very important, CPI month over month. That is very important. Remember, we know CAD showed strength on weekly, and I will go through that again. Then the next important one is NZD cash rate. So in the same week, you have two cash rate statements. That's gonna be fun. The next one is GBP CPI. I always give that importance. Uh, what is interesting to me, odd has these cash rate statement, and then odd has this red news, and Australian dollar also Governor Bullock will speak, which basically means that depending on the chart, it can follow trend or just be manipulation. So that would be interesting to watch. Then later in the week, on Friday, a lot of PMI from Euro and GBP, right? So that would be important too. But it's later in the week, so it depends how you want to trade it, right? If it's later and you don't trade on Friday, I would not give so much importance to this one. For me, this one is important because this can move, affect CHF also, right? So I would focus on these. So in terms of importance, I do feel odd and NZD are at the top. Those cannot be ignored. And then it's CAD and GBP with CPI, right? The other one would be FOMC meeting minutes. This one is the bizarre one. Sometimes it really creates volatility and sometimes not. Mostly it's not, right? But at least for Forex market, it can be. For indices, it's mostly can be done. Anyway, so news-wise, our focus would be odd, NVD, and CAD, right? So the next thing is the strength indicator, right? What is important to note that CAD did show strong strength on weekly, and it's still showing that. So it would not be very easy to change that trend. It cannot happen so easily. And right now, I don't think so. There are any technical reasons to say otherwise. Euro was damn weak, right? So I think what was surprising to me, which I said in the last week also, that I'm biased to the downside on Euro, or sorry, on DXY. So Euro should have shown strength, but it's the other way, right? But instead, DXY biasness worked and Euro bounced a little. And in this video, we'll understand what really happened. I hope it will make sense to you. I think we have to get back to the basics where CAD and JPY are showing strength, and I will show the chart why I say that. And Euro may show weakness, and again, I will show the chart why I say that, right? So that was the weekly strength indicator. So basically, my focus would be on NZD odd names and playing that along with something like CAD or JPY, right? So that would be the primary focus. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was why I think some of the no, names are very prone to pulling back or at the start of the week, right? So let's first look at DXY, right? In terms of DXY, we got our move, right? But what is important to note is, again, I cannot be completely bearish on this. I cannot be bullish on this. So DXY is in that kind of place. But it will help us understand why some of the names are prone to pulling back, right? The reason I say why I cannot be bearish is because this is one kind of demand on weekly, and if you look at monthly, you just cross the monthly low, right? So what can happen is it can create a dead cat bounce, right? Plus, when you went down, you left this huge liquidity. I'm not saying you have to come here, but ideally, at least you come here. And that's when I would short DXY, and long USD, Euro USD, GBP USD, all that, those kind of names. And I would be very confident on that. Now, I think this is a weekly supply and this is a weekly demand. So can it just chop around, do this? God knows, right? But it definitely doesn't give me a edge, right? So the probability wise, I don't know what can happen for sure. I think you never know, but what I mean is with higher probability, right? So it can create a dead cat bounce. Overall, I still think it may fall further down because for me, there's no FVG here on monthly. So maybe it can, overall, I think it can go further down. Ideally, it should test this region, but I would not deny that there's a chance that it can bounce here also, right? So I know for sure this can be a great sell zone. I know for sure this can be a great buy zone, but I don't know if this is the great sell zone or buy zone. So that means what? That means it can be a low probability move, and let's be safe. Let's stay out of it, right? So DXY is in that kind of space. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about is Australian dollar. I think it's due for a pullback. I think it can really fall hard because of rate statement. Now, I can be wrong here because we were so sold on Australian dollar, but I will tell you my reasons and why my bias is there, and then you can decide for yourself. Whenever names go after this kind of choppy action in a supply, so this particular supply is damn interesting, and I will explain more. In a supply, it can maybe come here also, right? Because this is a low resistance liquidity run, low resistance area, right? Basically a trend line, you can say. So it can come a little more up, but chances of it falling then really bad is very high because you went up with such a high consolidation, right? Secondly, I don't trust names. And secondly, you made a higher high, so you have to make a higher low before going up. And I think that is a good argument for it to pull back. Secondly, thirdly, I should say, whenever on weekly or any candle, you have just two candles, like here, two, right? I would like to see pullback and see if it's holding or not. Now, in terms of supply, why do I think this is a great supply? So the reason I say this is a weekly zone, right? So I don't mark weekly zones very clearly because then it creates a lot of noise in the chart, but I can show you here. This whole thing is a weekly zone, right? Now you're going in a weekly zone after chopping a lot, right? So what can happen is it can just liquidate and come back down. So I think you are in a zone where you are in daily supply. You already were damn weak on monthly, right? You're just in huge monthly fair value gap, right? And so you can pull back. But when these kind of candles happen, sometimes the whole green candle can also happen on monthly. But I would rather stay with the trend right now. When that happens, I will change my bias. Right now, for me, it's not the time to change my bias, at least for now. With rate statement, if market, you can never predict news. So if market really loves the news, it can all cause this low liquidity run, uh, basically break this trend line and form a big green candle. And on monthly, you will have a huge reversal candle, which would be perfect for upside. But right now, at this point, the way you went up, I think you should make a higher high before going up. You made a lower low and you made a higher high, but you didn't make a higher low. And I would expect that. So that's what I'm expecting. I wanted to come down here in this region, and then I will be, if it holds, then I will be confident that this move is legit. So I think Australian dollar is due for a pullback, can really pull back at the start of the week. And there would be charts also saying that. I can show you that. I'll show that in the later part of the video. Now, the second chart I really, really like is JPY pair. Why I really like it is because, as I said in the video, right, I want to see in the previous video the reaction here. There was none whatsoever, but it reclaimed it from what? A weekly zone, right? So this was a weekly demand zone and this was a weekly demand zone, right? So what happened? It took one of the weekly high and got bought there. Ideally, I would like to see something like that. This time I will focus on this area again. I would like to see if it comes back or not. I may not have to wait so much. I mean, focus so much because I'm already in a JPY swing. But I think ideally I would like to pull back and at least test this gap area. Now, if it doesn't pull back, right? Let's say it doesn't pull back at all, then I would like to see continuation and holding this gap area. If it doesn't hold, that means a huge liquidation, right? Which for me with this weekly candle is low probability. For me, the higher probability is this coming here, because of how this is looking with weekly demands being formed and a clear weekly candle. So I think ideally I would like it to see come here. And right now the probability says that way, but I would like to be ready on that. So we'll see how it works. I personally would want uh, I want to see how it reacts again in this region. That would be an awesome combination if it pulls back and then just gets to this area, right? So the next one is CHF. The reason I want to show this is because this will make sense when I show a CHF JPY pair, right? The reason I like CHF for pullback, as I said, for me, this made a lower low. Maybe you can count this as a higher high, like this. It broke it. So I would expect it to come back to make a higher low. And what is defining this comeback? If you check the 2 hour zone here, that's a beautiful 2 hour zone. Great rejection here. So I think this can do this or this, but it should come here, and that's what my focus would be. This 2 hour is damn beautiful because this 2 hour matches with daily supply, right? So I really like this one if it can come pull back. And when it tests this, I have my alert set and it will make sense uh, in some time, right? So that's CHF future. Now, the third one is Euro Futures, and this is one is damn important for me. This is also due for a pullback. And this, the logic is not about high or low, it's just in a great daily supply, right? And I think there are charts saying that it should pull back a little. And I think if this pulls back just a little, and other names show strength or doesn't pull back, that will help us in some of the charts. And I will show that. So I think it should pull back a little, ideally in this region. I'm not trading Euro USD as such, but there is one particular pattern. If it happens, you never know what the market does. So if it happens, I definitely want to share one zone. In Euro USD, in last to last video, I said this zone is damn important, and look where it bounced from. Uh, so that's the power of supply and demand. So now the futures are out of the syllabus, like it's done and dusted, but it will help us to understand how some of the charts move, how are we predicting some of the chart movements in terms of probability, and that's why I wanted to set the context with showing the futures charts first. So keeping that in mind, where we think euro is in supply, is in daily supply, we'll start with euro JPY. Remember, let's go just a second back. We said euro news is later in the week, right? So any move, legit move, can be later in the week, first on euro. Second, we said JPY and CAD have shown strength, right? And remember, euro was in daily supply, right? So what I think is interesting with euro JPY, and I should move this one up on GBP JPY, is it tested our zone. So let's move to weekly chart so that it's clear, right? So it broke the previous weekly high and now is ready to pull back. Uh, if you look at euro names, almost all the euro names are doing that. I don't have it here. Um, let me see. Yeah. So Euro CHF again tested and pulling back. And I think it was Euro NVD. Yeah. Tested this weekly level, pulling back. I do think it can bounce, but like every Euro name is doing that, right? And Euro futures are in supply. So I think with the strength and all that, Euro JPY should not break this zone and it should come down. Now, can you say that it will definitely, come down, come till here or here? I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. For me, this is the zone. I will try to take my 2 hour out and I'll get out. This weekly fair value, sorry, daily fair value gap is open, so it can bounce like this if it has to go down, right? So I think it should at least come till here, ideally here, and if the weekly pattern is correct, then it can go further down, right? But for me, I would focus on this zone, which was the zone in the last week also, and make a trade accordingly. What is important for you to note, if you look at 12 hour, I think, yeah. So it formed a great 12-hour supply. So this should be marked as 12. Yeah. So it formed a great 12-hour supply. You created a daily inside candle. So ideally, you would like to see a next candle which doesn't test this low, comes here and goes down. But otherwise, also, this is a great zone. It's a 12-hour zone within a gap region here and also in daily supply. Plus, it tested the gap. So all this which will happen is a reaction to the gap test. I think it should come down, right? Now, GBP JPY, that's the name I'm already in. This one is damn important. We mentioned this. This is a great supply zone. My stop loss is here, as I mentioned in the video. My target is this right now. So I entered somewhere here, right? So that's a great 2 or 2.5 RR. I am targeting that way, right? For me, this is a great setup because this is causing SMT also. What is SMT? This one is lower, so this high, this high is lower than this high, whereas on Euro JPY, this high is higher than this high. So for me, GBP JPY was weaker, and I took a short on that. We'll see what happens this week on it. I'm on that swing trade. I hope I get my profits here. I will sell when it comes here, right? So that is GBP JPY for you. If it tests this area again, I'm just saying it can be a good trade. I do believe stop loss still should be here. Let's be safe, guys. Take your 2 RR, 1.5 RR. I do think ideally it should come here with this kind of fast move. It's left a lot of liquidity, but I would target this. So GBP JPY is something which would be the focus again this week. The next is CAD JPY. So why did I take GBP JPY and all that? Is because multiple names were testing this weekly area. So on CAD JPY also, I was expecting it to come here or here and should pull back, and that's what it exactly did. But I wanted it to come here. It didn't, right? But I wanted to see the reaction. And now, what reaction do we have? We have this 8 hour supply. So, what if I want to enter here? I wouldn't because I'm already in GBP JPY. But if you want to enter in CAD JPY, you will enter here, put a stop loss somewhere here, and let it go down. Why somewhere here? Because there is a 8 hour supply here. So there's level on top of level, and ideally you would put a stop loss above this, right? So that's CAD JPY. Uh, but why is CAD JPY not the first priority? Because CAD has been showing strength. There has not been any sign of weakness till now. And why trade those kind of names, right? So I think Euro JPY and GBP JPY are still better. That's my point of view on JPY, Euro JPY and GBP JPY. Now there is one trade I really like, right? I think if this happens, this is a high probability trade. If I can just remove this brush. I kept it so that I remember to point this out. And even if it doesn't work or something, point is you should learn something from this. Whenever, where is this? Whenever you have a long wick candle like this, and the second candle is very low wick like this, right? So you basically have a long wick, let's say, and second is short wick, let's say. Now the third candle, this can act like supply if you can find something important there. With that in mind, let's say we mark this whole zone as supply, right? Now, ideally you would mark this way, but this screws up with your risk to reward. So you would rather be wrong here and get out or be wrong here and get out, right? So you will have to play it twice depending on what you think about strength and weakness, right? So I do think CHF, if you remember, I showed that 2 hour gap, 2 hour zone, right, on CHF futures. So I don't think it should come in this particular zone because I showed the future chart and I also showed how JPY is showing strength. So again, let's say this is the whole zones, right? Now let's see what is happening on daily. If you look at on this zone, there is a daily supply here, right? You can mark it this way also, which has already been tested. But I will like to take the shorter one just for better risk to reward. Now you have this zone on weekly. Within that, you have this daily zone. So I think it should test this. It can either test this and go down or test this area and go down. So CHF can have a little bounce and then this can be a great shot. Again, the logic in terms of higher low. Right now, the trend is clearly down, right? And you are saying it should go down, right? If you don't get this, then if it goes further up, then I like this zone here, but target still would be somewhere here, right? I don't think that should happen. For me, this week, I'm ready to see what happens here, and I think it should go down here or here, right? So that is CHFJPY. And now I hope it makes sense that why I showed the CHF futures chart, right? On CAD CHF, the same logic. CAD has been acting strong, guys. Remember, right? So if CHF comes in this region, specifically, I would like it to come below this. Let's say CAD shows weakness, right? So this is the weekly. Let me just share this weekly level. Yeah. So this is the weekly line, right? And this is the second weekly line here. Let me mark this, right? So and there are equal highs. So if we see this movement, I would like to see CHF, CAD CHF come in this area, right? And then I would like to long it, targeting at least till this area, right? And the reason why this is a great combination, look at this weekly candle. The probability of a whole weekly candle is low. The probability of this zone is holding is high. Ideally, you would like to say, oh, your entry is here, your stop loss is below this, right? But that screws up your risk to reward. So what I would do is I will enter here. I'm wrong. Okay, -1 hour. I'll enter here. This will give me 3 hour or 4 hour, right? So that's the way I think about risk management on these names, on these kind of structures. But my entry would be somewhere here. So let me show you what 12 hour has, right? This is the fresh zone. This hasn't been tested, right? But I would just suggest one thing on this one is there are some choppiness here. So put a stop loss, give a little buffer here, but target should be at least this region, right? But let's say CAD shows strength, right? Then what I want to see is CAD coming here and then breaking this equal high low, right? So if it comes here, let me put an alert. Can I just do that? Where is that button? Okay. Yeah, so if you look at this 2 hour is very nice one, right? It is previous week high, a great 2 hour zone. So I think if CAD CHF bounces, you see something like this, right? So that's my plan on CAD CHF. Uh, Either I want a buy in this region or a short in this region, right? That's CAD CHF. Now NZD CAD, with NZD CAD, what I really love about NZD CAD is it's leaving a lot of liquidity behind whenever so firstly there's a trend line, right? Equal highs, lows here, equal highs. I think it's more. Let me move it to 1 hour so you can clearly see it. Look at those beautiful equal highs, lows, right? 1 and 2, right? So it's leaving these great liquidity zones. Then you have a daily trend line, which it has just tested, right? Then you have a weekly low here, which did it test it? Let me see. Oh, it didn't. It just almost was about to test it, right? Now, if you look at 4 hour chart here, So there is this 4-hour supply where the preferred version is, where did it go? Where the preferred version is this one. Plus you have a 4-hour level on top of level, right here. So for me, I want to see what happens here. I think with NZD news and all, this would be a great. If it can bounce a little more, that would be great. But for me, it has already tested the zone, and what I showed on odd, it will work here also, and you will see other charts. So I think it can go down. Now look how it came up. Let me see. Yeah, straight up in a downtrend, right? So this is just manipulation for me. Ideally, what I would love to see, like and love both, is a little break of this trend line. If it can break this trend line, maybe it happens late. Maybe it falls down, and during NZD rate news, it breaks this trend line. And that for me is manipulation, right? So ideally, what I would like to see is come down and during odd news or NZD news, manipulation and then comes down, right? So that's the way I'm seeing this right now. I don't see any chance of it completely green candle, so I don't think so. I think there is some manipulation gonna happen on NZD and odd this week. So for me, it depends how it plays. Let's say we go down here, we come down to layer, NZD news happen, then this is the supply I would play, right? If you want to enter at the start of the week, you please put your stop loss around here, right? So entry here, stop loss here, target here. So what I would like to definitely do is see some kind of manipulation. But if you want to play before NZD news, you enter here, stop loss here, and then you get the move till here. And in my opinion, with rate news, right? It's not a small news. This low can be broken this week, right? So I think this low can be broken, and something like this can happen, or something like this can happen. So that's NZDCAD. Uh, AUDUSD, as I was saying, showed the what was that? Odd futures, same monthly level, weekly supply, daily supply. Now, what do I mean by that? I showed in the weekly odd futures, but again, this is weekly supply, this whole thing, right? This thing here is daily supply, which it's testing. The only biggest downside of this supply is you have a long wick here, right? So that means if let's say you are trading supply on level on this is one supply and this is one supply. So this screws up with your risk to reward. So if you want to be safe, you would rather play it once manipulation happens after anything above this level, right? Let manipulation happen. But I do think it is a possibility that odd just goes down without testing this region, because this one is also damn important, right? The problem here is if it was a week where Australian dollar didn't have like rate change news, then I would have said, oh, definitely it's going down, right? I mean, I wouldn't say definitely. I try to avoid that for the markets, but most probably it will go down. Right now, I get iffy because even if it comes down and you put a stop loss here, and news just creates that manipulation that screws up your trade, right? So I would say, like, if you're entering at the start of the week, let it happen, because the news is just on Monday. But I think the possibility is you see this kind of move. I think there is liquidity here. I think it has to make a lower high. All those what I said about the futures, right? So the main focus for me would be AUDCAD. This depends according to the story. Why AUDCAD? Because CAD has been, I'm bearish odd, and I'm saying CAD has been showing strength, right? So what I want, there is a really good 4-hour supply here. So if you see 4-hour, look at this beautiful 4-hour supply here. The only thing I don't like about it is again this long wick, right? So what I would like to see is this coming here and forming another supply, and then I will trade it, right? So I think something like this can happen, like this, right? all like this, right? But to make sure that I'm not getting manipulated like this, what I would like to see is some kind of supply form here, and then I will short that, right? So that's AUDCAD. In terms of Euro USD, as explained on Euro Futures, I think it's due for a pullback. I think this can happen at the start of the week. If not, I'm ready for this equal highs to be taken and we could go down, right? Having said that, Euro USD, GBP USD. I'm just watching these this week. I would not trade it as much because of the only reason that DXY is something in a zone, somewhere in the zone where I'm not confident about. But the reason I showed this chart was this area, right? I really like this zone. If we can come here, because this is uh in a weekly demand, a daily zone, right? So if we can pull all the way down, then that would be awesome. The second zone is here, but again, it has such a long demand, right? For me, it will screw up with my risk to reward, so that's why I'm not recommending that. So personally, I don't think that it can come here. But what I have learned about the markets is keep your thoughts aside, just plan your trades and move forward. So for me, if it comes here, then I will trade it. Otherwise, no. Similarly, on GBP USD, what I really care about is this zone here. There is a 12-hour zone, right? So there is a 12-hour zone here. Let me remove this brush strokes, which I really like. You see, this star sign shows that it's super awesome. But anyway, there's a 12-hour zone here, which I really like. And if it comes down here, that's what I will enter on. My stop loss would be here. The reason my stop loss is bigger is because I do think if the zone works the way I think, you are basically trading a weekly zone, a daily zone inside the weekly. So the move is not something like this. The move can be big, right? So that's the way I'm thinking about GBP USD. If it comes here and if it comes to the PXY zone that I mentioned, that both combinations should happen for me to trade GBP USD or Euro USD. On GBP CAD, as I said, right, I do think Euro USD and GBP USD are due for a pullback. On GBP CAD, that pullback can help you. What I mean by that, it's in the zone. If you watched this previous video, uh, you must have seen this is the zone I really like, and this is the zone I really care about. Right now, stop loss is about this, and I think it should come here, but if it comes here, I will take my profit, right? So what I am thinking about GBP CAD is somewhere when it came here, I just missed it, right? So if it just tests the high here, I will just enter and take it, right? But my stop loss, first stop loss would be here, right? And half position stop loss would be here, half position stop loss would be here. So my risk management would be that way. Ideally, I really don't think it should bounce at all. I think it can just go down. This was part of the trade plan last week. If you are in it, please put your stop loss here or here. For me, I'm in GBP, JPY, and I try to just trade one of the names. Like in terms of, like for example, I'm already in a GBP name, right? So I didn't want to trade another name, but I was ready if it comes a little more above, which it didn't, right? Which is fine. So what my plan right now is, if I get a supply here, I will short this and put my stop loss again here. Uh, Give me 1.52 RR, I will still take it. I'm happy with that. Similarly on EURCAD, we mentioned the zone here. This one and this one, it came here, rejected super hard, right? So that was the plan all this while. So EuroCAD definitely worked in our favor, right? This was the zone which you mentioned, and that's the plan for this week, right? So this week, what we think is it tested, pulled back completely, and I think it has shown the sign of weakness. Euro is in a zone, is in a place where it should pull back. So I think it shouldn't bounce further. You I think can put a stop loss here itself. So that's EuroCAD for you guys. It's a great shot at the start of the week, according to me. The probability of it breaking this weekly high, where is that? Here, right? Is low. So I think putting a stop loss here works in your favor. So that's EuroCAD for you. I think it should go down. Remember, Euro Futures chart. So and CAD is acting strong. So all those combinations makes me think that EuroCAD is also good for downside. Now again, in terms of liquidity, you see clear liquidity, you see clear liquidity. You saw that for NZDCAD also, right? So that is important to note, right? That's it for it. This video, guys, there are other names. I don't want to push so much into it. They can be choppy, so I kept them out. Right now, I would just be focusing on these names for this week. I don't want to add more names and be noise here. I hope this video helped. I hope there was something you learned from it. While at least teaching these concepts, I get my revision, so I always love making these videos. But at the same time, I would love to hear any feedback. If you have something for me, please let me know. If you want me to make any particular video, please let me know. I'm here to help. Hope you have a great trading week, guys. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if this provided any value. And if it didn't, just comment and maybe next time it will. Have a good trading week, guys. All the best.